So we got the Mini back in the shop now, and since he is now a professional mechanic, he's going to be tearing it into himself instead of me tearing it into it. And when we get it apart, we'll figure out just how bad it really is. We know there was some coolant in the oil, but we don't know just how much. And we'll find out here in just a moment. Since it hasn't been running since we put it on the trailer, it's not mixed up right now, so it's not showing on the dipstick. So it should all the water should be at the bottom. Oh, wow, I don't see anything right there. I was expecting something a little more dramatic. Wah, 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 wah.
All I know is that milkshake was white, or the dipstick was white when I pulled it out.
Yeah, and then the guys you told it to said there was water in there too, but we're not showing the evidence right now, and usually that comes out first. That's how you get them out of one of these deep, modern day valve cover setups. We can do a compression test here. All right, so what we're going to have you do here, Keegan, is get in and crank the motor over. And you'll be able to hear whenever this cylinder's on compression, you'll hear go, and just do it like, hear it, do it like say 6 times and let off, and then we'll do the same number of times every one. Okay? All right. Not climbing anymore. It takes about 6 times for it to, 6 rotations for it to stop climbing usually. All right, 125. At least those are close to each other. Within 5 pounds, that's good. One's a little higher. Oh. 12 pounds difference between all cylinders from 125 to 137. So it's within 10%. Now we just need to see what the actual compression was on these things for dynamic compression was, to see how close it is to what it's supposed to be. There's no marks on the top of any of the pistons to suggest that they've tagged any valves. Just a little bit of carbon, relatively even coat of carbon, slightly oily, but at this mileage, what do you expect? So just to give a little bit of background of what we're working with right here is this Mini has, I think, 195,000 miles on it. And when it broke down on him, he had pulled the dipstick, said it looked like a milkshake, and he thought there was water in the oil. And it was icy and snowy, had it towed to a local garage, who then said, well, we'll diagnose it for you and we'll throw if it is a head gasket, we can do a head gasket for no more than it would cost you to tow it all the way back to where you live. And his dad said he was going to go ahead and take care of it for him. And then when his dad called up, he relayed to him that it had a bent valve in it. Now, when we went to go get it, they said, no, it doesn't have a bent valve. It just has water in the oil, blown head gasket. And at that kind of mileage, it's not worth paying someone like us to fix it because it's more than what the car's worth. And now we're not seeing anything as of yet that's indicating any kind of bent valve, and we're not seeing any water in the oil at this point. It just looks like a tired engine. So between the information I was getting on what had happened with the car and everything, and with the shop that looked at it, what they said, I just let him tear into it and say, go at it. It needs a head gasket, go ahead and tear it down. Well, now if we're seeing, we decided to stop and actually talk to him. What did this thing actually do when it broke down? And he said it went into limp mode, and that's when he pulled it, just double checking the oil, and he said it looked milky. But it was pretty cold out that day, it'd been snowing, and it hadn't been running for very long, and you could see condensation in either an oil cap or even in the oil a little bit in those situations, and so there's the potential it wasn't actually a blown head gasket. So I said, let's stop right here. I have a scanner that will scan cars up to 2004, and this is a 2004. Let's throw the scanner on it. Well, what we come up with was several low voltage codes. Low voltage at the coil and O2 code, which is the rear O2, which whatever on that one, and an evap code, which that is such a common thing on an old, higher mileage car that's 20 years old that I don't even pay attention to those. So what we're going to actually do, I'm going to have him go ahead and throw the valve cover back on it, throw some fresh oil in it since we didn't see anything in the oil. And we're going to go ahead and get it started up and check the voltage, make sure he didn't just have an alternator go bad. So when he put the oil drain plug back in, righty-tighty started feeling a bit like righty-loosey. Started pulling threads out, so we ended up going and getting an oversized plug. Dorman sells them, like this was an M14 by 1.5. Maybe when you walk into the part store, they won't always be able to tell you which one fits it, but I knew the size. And so this is what's called SO behind it. It means it's a single oversize. They also make some of them in size called DO, which is double oversize. So if you stripped it out, you can put one of these in, and if you strip it again, you can go to the double oversize. So we picked one of those in there and put some fresh oil in it. We're going to go ahead and start it up, test the voltage and see where it's sitting at, see if it just killed an alternator. Yeah, go ahead and start it. If it is. You forgot to hook the coils up. Yep, that'll do it. And the battery's low, we might have to put a jump pack on it. Yeah. So, yeah. It's coming up. 14.2, what we want to see. Unfortunately, that means it's a possibility that there's a ground problem causing low voltage, or a bad sensor or something within the system causing a problem, which is a lot harder to track down. That's the tensioner. See the tensioner bouncing?
Oh, yeah.
Have you checked the coolant level yet in it? See if it had gone down at all?
I think that's close.
So here we are like a week later, and my scanner is just barely new enough to be able to scan this thing. It's 25 years old. So he's got a newer scanner that he brought in and put on it, and it tells him a whole lot more about what's going on. And between that and a bit of a search on the internet, we found that the low voltage and the multiple circuits can be caused by the belt tensioner bouncing a little bit, especially with the supercharged cars. When the tensioner gets a little bit weak, and the belt can start bouncing, and it can bounce just hard enough to cause variations in the voltage because of a belt slippage, just enough for this thing to pick it up and throw it into limp mode. And this is what it looks like. So it's got a big spring here, and then it's got the little shock absorber here. And these things are like $300, and of course it's buried down in here, so it's going to take a little bit to get in there and actually install it. But apparently that is the fix for the low voltage on multiple circuits. So he's going to get stuck into putting this on there, and hopefully that actually does fix it.
Where's the air hose?
Over there behind the TD on the floor.
Yeah, it's just so should I stick something like under that?
There's a lot going on in the shop today.